Well, good afternoon. If it's Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern, it's Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. Thanks for stopping by the room. If you're watching this post session, thanks for watching. This spring, we're going to do some of our greatest hits, if you will. We're going to replay some of the sessions we've done in the fall and last year. And I will pop in once in a while to do a live session. So keep up on your social media, and you'll see when I'm out here live. So today I'm live. Today we're going to talk about 360 assessment. Is it still viable? Should you still use it? And then I have a bit of a case study for you. So we're talking about 360 assessment today. Last time I talked about 360, I talked about the assessment tool we use. I will put a link in here later on about the assessment tool we use, but this is really talking about the process, things you need to think about when doing 360. So a little bit of the history of 360, or what we like to call multi-rater feedback, whether it's 360 or 180. It's a way to get feedback from those who work around a leader, a manager, an executive, to get some feedback on their performance to help that executive improve. And 15, 20 years ago, this was the new way, 360 evaluation. Because the old way of evaluating was always managers evaluating their direct reports, but never thought of having direct reports or people that work around you evaluate you or give you some feedback on your performance. It was never thought of in the workplace. But again, like one of these management things that came out, 360 was embraced. Everybody in HR, everyone in the people space loved 360 feedback. Everybody was doing 360 feedback. The problems with 360 feedback that everybody embraced 15, 20 years ago is that it didn't really go that well. Managers weren't really ready, executives weren't really ready to get feedback from people who worked around them because you know what? They didn't like it. They didn't like a lot of the feedback they were hearing. They didn't like the feedback. They didn't like the way the process worked. They felt their employees were dumping on them, had a chance to, say something they really wanted to say anonymously, if you will, for all these years. So it didn't really work. I still hear stories from HR directors on 360 implementation many years ago that failed miserably. So let's talk about not failing in the 360 process. So let me give you some feedback on how we set up the 360 process. First and foremost, senior management needs to buy in. If you can't get senior managers to buy into 360 feedback, it's not going to be accepted by the rank and file. So you've got to get senior manager buy-in. HR will usually buy into 360 feedback, but you've got to get senior management into feedback. It needs to be part of a process. We recommend using it as part of, if not all of, an evaluation process. So as you're getting the evaluation process started for the executive, you're getting feedback from those that work around that executive, so you can make some proper recommendations on future development. So the 360 process becomes part of a professional development process. And if it's used in that professional development process, the idea of being more successful will definitely help. Our 360 is skill-based, so we get feedback from others who work around the executive specifically on skill. How are they behaving? How are they listening? How are they leading? How are they solving conflict? How are they running meetings? So we get specific feedback, skill feedback on our 360. Setting up the assessment. So if you're going to go down this road and senior managers bought in, you have to let those participating in the process know this is not a dump on your boss situation. This is an opportunity for you to help your boss. Help your boss by both the rating, and in our case, we open up the window for personal comments. So giving not positive feedback, but constructive feedback to your boss is really important, and if done correctly, well received. But again, this is not a dump on your boss situation. So you have to set up the participants to be successful in this process and let them know this is a professional development opportunity. Then you need to select the right participants. Don't let the person being 360 pick their own pool, because obviously they're going to pick their friends and buddies. Let somebody outside of that direct person pick the pool. Usually we'll let HR pick the pool, and they'll pick enough folks to get a good diverse set of folks around the boss. But it's very, very important that you pick the right pool. And then run through, as I say, run through the process, RSS comments. Once that process is done, our responsibility is to sit down and to debrief the individual. So we go in and debrief the individual. We compare their scores to their group scores, both by a group perspective and then a peer perspective and a direct report perspective. So we take a look at the different subgroups within the 360. Ours gives an action plan. So as we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the 360, we want to make sure that there's an action plan so this person can develop their skill. After debriefing the individual, we debrief the boss. The boss that's identified in the pool, we also debrief. Now, the participant can see what their boss's scores are, which may make for an interesting discussion, but we want to debrief the boss because eventually the boss has to write some type of performance review on this individual. So we want to debrief them in two areas. One, they see the scores, they can see the differences between their scores and their direct report scores, but we also want to coach them how to use the 360 tool as a professional development tool. These are the areas where this particular person could grow, and these are some things you may want to think about in that growth process. So we debrief the individual, we debrief the boss. Our 360 also has the ability of doing a group report. So if we're doing a senior team or a group of managers, we can run a group report for the organization and actually give feedback on skill strength and skill deficiency. And we may come up with some group training based on that skill deficiency. So we can run these group reports after the 360 process. Then we come up with a development plan. We offer to help in that development plan at the individual level. We do coaching, so we'll coach individual executives at the one-on-one level. We'll put together an individual growth plan based on the results of the 360. We'll come up with a series of 2-3 hour meetings over the course of 2-3 months, and we'll work on some skill development with the individuals, and we do that quite regularly. When to reassess? We usually reassess anywhere between 6 months to a year. We want to go back in and reassess again. We try to reassess with the same pool of participants. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time, but if you get the same pool of participants to reassess the individual, makes for a really good comparison. And our 360 does have the ability of comparing a previous 360 assessment to the current 360 assessment, so we can measure delta. We can actually measure delta, improvement or slip back, if you will. Hopefully we see improvement, but it does give the ability to measure the delta. So we have a client in town here. I'm not going to mention the client's name, but we've been doing 360 work for this client for a long time, for many, many years. And we've done coaching, we've done training, and we've done the 360 assessment. And we're in the process now of going back in and reassessing a group of executives. And I am happy to say in the first 10 folks we've done so far that the increase in score has been, if not significant, great. It's been really nice to see the improvement of score and feedback, because not only is the score that the participants get from their direct reports and peers and bosses, but it's the typed-in feedback that you see this time around really, really improve. I mean, there have been executives in this particular pool this time around that have gotten a bit emotional about the positive feedback they're getting from their direct reports based on the results of the previous assessment, the amount of work we've put in with them, training and coaching along the way, and coming back in and reassessing again. You could tell, and when I was debriefing a lot of these folks individually, I put joy in quotes, but they were really happy that the folks that were giving them feedback this time around not only gave them good scores, which is important, but made a point to mention in many cases of the improvement, they're trying to improve, and just being an overall better boss. And the couple lines were like, wow, this is really, really cool stuff. So great to see. We're going to continue doing this work with this particular client, this 360 work. If you're interested in us helping you with 360, maybe talking through it, see how it works with your organization, I'm happy to do that. Just message me wherever you're seeing this, and we'll kind of go from there. I will put a link into wherever you're seeing this. There'll be a link to our 360 and our coaching program, so that you'll see a little what we do to have to offer. But if you're thinking about 360, really think hard about it. I mean, as I said, there are some success stories we've seen, and there are some really, really bad stories we've seen. So I see we're getting toward the end of our time. So again, so next week we'll probably do one of our replays. We'll do a couple of those, and I'll come back in and do something live again, get to see my mug. But thanks for hanging out with me. This is Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. If you're thinking about 360, give me a call. Take care.